No one expected this from the royal family. A family known for its strict traditions, quiet elegance, and carefully curated public image, just had its most protected secret leaked, and it's something even the closest royal watchers never saw coming. It started with a single encrypted file. No media outlet had it. No royal biographer hinted at it. It was discovered on a private cloud drive, anonymous, untraceable, and chillingly detailed. And when the file reached the hands of an investigative journalist, everything changed. Within minutes of reviewing the contents, the journalist reportedly went silent. He then vanished from the internet for 48 hours. When he finally reappeared, he released a cryptic tweet. "The royal family is not what you think. Prepare yourselves." The tweet was deleted within minutes. Rumors exploded. Was it an affair? A secret child? Hidden wealth? A suppressed scandal from decades ago? The palace, famously tight-lipped, refused to comment, only intensifying the fire. Then came the image. Leaked on a dark web forum, it showed a young royal identity blurred, meeting with someone who has been on multiple international watch lists. The image was quickly scrubbed, but not before it was downloaded and analyzed by independent experts. The location, a private estate. The time, years ago. The significance, unknown, but extremely dangerous. Royal insiders began receiving anonymous emails warning them not to dig deeper. One former staff member claimed, "If this ever gets out, it will rewrite royal history." What makes this leak so different, so terrifying, isn't just what it revealed. It's why it was leaked, and more importantly, who leaked it. Because according to insiders, the person behind this massive breach isn't an outsider. It's someone inside the palace walls. Someone with access, someone with a motive, and someone who may now be in serious danger. But the biggest mystery of all isn't the content, it's the timing. Why now? Why expose this after years of silence? Was this meant to warn the public or destroy the royal legacy? And most hauntingly, what else hasn't been revealed yet? To understand the weight of this leak, we need to step back decades, even centuries, into the guarded corridors of Britain's most powerful institution. The royal family isn't just a group of privileged elites, they are the living embodiment of tradition, monarchy, and mystery. Every move they make is orchestrated, every smile, every handshake, calculated. But behind the velvet curtains of Buckingham Palace lies a world far more complex than tabloids ever reveal. For generations, the royals have been surrounded by whispers, stories of cover-ups, secret pacts, and internal power struggle. From King Edward VIII's abdication over forbidden love to Princess Diana's tragic death, so many events remain shrouded in speculation. Over time, the royal family built a powerful system of control. Public relations experts, intelligence officers, and private legal teams worked tirelessly to protect the crown's reputation. What the world saw was grace and grandeur. What they didn't see was the cost of that. Every family has secrets, but in the case of the monarchy, these secrets can alter international perception and national stability. The insider who allegedly leaked the new information, rumor has it, they've been part of the palace staff for over a decade. Not a butler or a maid, but someone in communications, someone who had unrestricted access to internal emails, confidential briefings, and personal diaries. Their role was simple: to preserve the royal image. But something changed. Over the past year, insiders have reported growing tension behind palace walls. Quiet reshufflings of key staff, increased security protocols, and a rise in non-disclosure agreements. Whispers of a royal member challenging the status quo, challenging history itself. Many believe this internal power struggle reached a breaking point, and in that moment, someone decided the truth must come out. What's deeply emotional and terrifying is the possible motive. The leaker isn't doing this for fame. In fact, they've gone completely dark since the file surfaced. Some believe it's not revenge, but redemption. Perhaps they witnessed something they couldn't unsee. Perhaps they realized the truth they were hired to hide could no longer stay buried. What adds to the tragedy is how tightly woven this leak is with one particular royal's journey. A journey marked by rebellion, silence and painful isolation from the rest of the family. A journey that might be at the center of this entire controversy. It's not just about scandal, it's about legacy, trauma, and a system built on centuries of silence. And that's where things get even more disturbing. Because the deeper we look into the family tree, the clearer it becomes. This leak didn't start recently. Its roots go back generations. The royal mask may finally be cracking, but what lies underneath? As the whispers around the leak grew louder, the entire atmosphere surrounding the royal family began to change. The media, though typically cautious with royal coverage, started hinting at unverified internal conflicts and growing paranoia within the palace. But what they didn't report was that behind the red brick gates of Kensington and the century-old walls of Windsor, things were unraveling at an unprecedented pace. It all began with small, almost unnoticeable shifts, details that seemed harmless on their own, but when pieced together, hinted at a looming crisis. Key royal engagements were suddenly cancelled. High-ranking staffers began resigning quietly. Members of the Royal Protection Unit were reassigned with no explanation. And most telling of all, certain royals who were once at the forefront of public life were now rarely seen, or worse, carefully edited out of family portraits and official video. Insiders described the atmosphere inside the palace as tense, like walking on glass. Staff were told to avoid discussing unofficial matters, and everyone from chefs to advisors was required to re-sign non-disclosure agreements. The phrase used repeatedly in those agreements, unauthorized disclosure of historically sensitive information. It was as if the monarchy itself was bracing for impact. Then came the anonymous packages. Multiple members of the British press confirmed they had received thick brown envelopes with no return address. Inside, a collection of seemingly random items, handwritten letters, grainy photographs, and printed pages from what appeared to be a private royal diary. One journalist claimed the content mentioned unrecorded visits, restricted guests, and untraceable phone line. Each clue was vague, deliberately fragmented, but carried an undeniable emotional weight. Whoever sent them knew exactly how to plant seeds of doubt and curiosity. At the heart of the chaos was one royal figure, young, dynamic, and once praised for breaking outdated traditions. According to palace watchers, this individual had grown increasingly disillusioned with royal life over the past 5 years. Known for asking difficult questions and resisting scripted appearances, they were seen by some as the family's future, and by others as its greatest threat. One former aide said, "They were too smart, too independent, and they started noticing things that didn't add up." Among the strangest details in the leaked content were records of meetings that were never reported to the public. Meetings with controversial political figures, confidential correspondence with intelligence agencies, and even unexplained travelogues to Eastern Europe and the Middle East, all occurring during periods when the royal in question was supposedly on holiday. One document, verified by 2 independent analysts, mentioned the phrase, Project Crown Lock, initiate silence protocols. No one knows exactly what Project Crown Lock is. Some believe it's an internal crisis management operation, meant to bury controversial events. Others think it's a codename for protecting certain members of the family from being exposed, either due to personal scandals or geopolitical entanglements. The leak suggested there was more at stake than reputation, possibly national security. Adding another layer to the mystery, several recordings surfaced. They weren't high quality, but they contained what experts believe to be real conversations between palace staff. In one clip, a voice whispers, "If they go public, the Commonwealth will collapse." That line set off a firestorm online. TikTok detectives, Reddit forums, and YouTube breakdown channels erupted with theories. Was there a scandal so deep it could end the monarchy's influence over dozens of nations? What did this one royal know that others didn't? And why were they being erased from public view? As conspiracy grew, so did concern. MI5 and MI6 reportedly conducted internal sweeps of royal properties, searching for listening devices and breaches. Palace internet traffic was encrypted and routed through military servers. Even senior members of parliament began holding closed-door sessions to discuss unexpected instability in sovereign institutions. A royal family built on diplomacy, continuity and control, was suddenly at the mercy of an invisible force, a leak that couldn't be stopped, and questions that couldn't be answered. Then came the quote that shook the world. In an off-camera moment during a royal charity event, a high-ranking royal believed to be speaking privately was caught saying to an aide, "They've gone rogue, and they're not coming back." No one knows who they are, but many believe the royal was referring to the whistleblower, possibly the royal figure connected to them, someone inside the family who no longer believed in silence. In the days that followed, the public began to notice something peculiar. Royal websites began glitching, biographies were rewritten, social media posts were scrubbed, and one particular image, a group photo from a private family gathering in 2018, was quietly removed from every official platform. What made the photo so important? According to an AI-enhanced analysis, one person in the background, previously assumed to be a palace staffer, matched 92% with the facial recognition profile of a known intelligence asset. This revelation, if true, would mean intelligence officers were embedded within royal events. But the question no one can answer is why. Why was someone so deeply embedded? What were they watching for? And most importantly, who were they protecting or targeting? It was no longer speculation. The world moved from whispers to undeniable proof the moment the first visual artifacts were released. The leak wasn't just made of words or rumors. It came with images, documents, and recordings, each one more shocking than the last. And unlike in previous royal controversies, this time there were no plausible denials. The evidence was too specific, too real. It began with a photograph, grainy black and white, taken with what appeared to be an analog film camera. At first glance, it seemed ordinary. A small private gathering, a long table, silverware glinting under a chandelier, and 4 people seated. But when enhanced using AI restoration tools, the faces became visible. And that's where the world froze. Because seated at the far end of the table, almost obscured by shadows, was a senior royal one long thought to have no connection to the controversial figure sitting beside him. A figure known globally for being involved in geopolitical scandals, financial crimes, and blackmail operations. The photo metadata placed the image in 2006, during a period when the royal in question was reportedly out of the country. But here, clear as day, he sat smiling with someone the royal family had publicly denounced years later. A second image emerged, this time from a high-resolution security camera still. It captured the same royal entering a nondescript estate, dated just 3 weeks before that now famous gathering. The security camera belonged to a private residence in Switzerland, and the footage had allegedly been held privately for over a decade. How it was obtained remains a mystery. But that was just the beginning. The leak included a PDF of internal palace memo. The header read, "Buckingham's Office of Royal Crisis Coordination, Eyes Only." Inside the file were a series of bullet points under the heading Preemptive Narrative Control. Block satellite imagery requests during a state window. Limit any resurfacing of Subject D in public narratives. But perhaps the most haunting page was a handwritten note, scrawled on royal stationery, seemingly torn from a personal journal. It read, "Buckingham's. They promised it would go away. But guilt doesn't fade like protocol. I see his face in every mirror. They don't even know I kept the tapes. No signature. No." But the handwriting has since been matched by forensic analysts to a royal aide, who mysteriously resigned in 2007 and was never heard from again. Then came the audio files. One in particular sent shockwaves through the investigative world. A 47-second clip, heavily distorted, captured a conversation between 2 unnamed individuals. According to voice pattern analysis, one voice matches a current palace official. Here's what was said. "He recorded everything, calls, meetings, even the ones we scrub. If that gets out, the monarchy won't survive the week. Then find him, or make sure no one ever finds the archive." The term archive immediately became the focal point of online investigations. Where was it? What was in it? And who was protecting it? Digital analysts began combing through clues, and eventually a pattern emerged. Coordinates hidden within the file names of the images. When plotted, they pointed to an isolated private storage facility in northern Scotland, once leased by a royal trust but sold in 2010 under mysterious circumstances. Inside that facility, according to whistleblower emails, was a locked safe. Its content, all the backups from the closed year's diary logs, intercepted faxes and microtapes labeled Room 9. The term Room 9 appears 5 times across the leaked materials, often next to redacted timelines and heavily blurred images. A former palace driver speaking anonymously confirmed that Room 9 wasn't a room at all. It was a nickname for a protocol. When something went wrong, like really wrong, they called it a Room 9, but nothing prepared the public for the next piece of evidence. A videotape, old school VHS format, labeled July 17th, Garden Confession. The tape, partially digitized, shows a royal family member seated under a tree in a private garden. There's no sound, but their gestures are animated. Urgent. They are speaking to someone off camera, pleading, even crying. Lip readers from multiple countries work to decode the clip. What they claim the royal said: "If I don't say it now, I'll never forgive myself. They made me lie. About everything. About what happened that night." What happened that night? Was this connected to the Swiss visit, the secret meeting, or something even more hidden? The emotional expression captured on that tape shook viewers to the core. This wasn't a staged apology or public speech. It was raw, vulnerable, real. Following the visual leaks, palace insiders claimed that the family was thrown into panic mode. All internal comms were restricted. A media blackout was attempted, and legal teams began sending takedown notices faster than ever before. But the internet never forgets. The documents had been mirrored across hundreds of servers. Backups were encrypted and stored in blockchain archives. The visual evidence had already gone global, reviewed by former intelligence officials, digital forensics experts, and historians alike. One thing was certain: this wasn't a hoax. This was a puzzle, one carefully scattered across images, papers, voices, and tape. And while much of the visual evidence gave chilling hints, none of it yet revealed the final truth behind why this all happened. That moment was still coming, and when it arrived, it would change the royal family forever. The leak had been unraveling like a slow, calculated storm, drip by drip, detail by detail. But then came the explosion. It wasn't from a hacker, not a whistleblower journalist, or online sleuth. The truth came directly from within. At 2:47 p.m. on a rainy Thursday, a major UK media house previously known for its royal sympathies published a restricted access exposé. The page went live for 7 minutes before being taken down, but those 7 minutes were enough. Screenshots were captured, files were downloaded, and mirrors popped up within hours. The headline: "The Lost Bloodline Royal Cover-Up Confirmed by Internal DNA Records." For decades, conspiracy theorists had claimed that something was amiss within the royal family tree. Odd historical gaps, mysterious disappearances, but no one expected the truth to be this personal and this devastating. The leaked DNA reports, verified by third-party labs in Switzerland and Denmark, revealed that a high-ranking royal one in direct succession to the throne was not biologically related to either of their supposed parents. The data was sourced from private health archives, originally collected under the guise of hereditary disease screening, but the match percentages were shocking. Only 11% maternal alignment, and 0. One line in the report sent shivers through every corner of the internet: "This individual is not a descendant of the current reigning monarch." What followed was a breakdown of a decades-old switch, one so meticulously covered up that even the involved medical professionals, now either deceased or silenced by non-disclosure agreements, left almost no trace. But one did. A retired midwife, in her final recorded testimony before her passing in 2019, stated that she had been forced to sign a royal secrecy clause after overseeing a birth that didn't align with the official records. She claimed the child born that day had distinct features, and was immediately taken away, replaced by a baby flown in via military escort. This baby, she claimed, was from a woman believed to have been associated with the family in private capacity, possibly a former royal aide, or a woman with royal lineage that had been deliberately erased from public history. According to the testimony, this act was not one of malice, but desperation. The reigning monarch at the time had been warned that a legitimate heir was medically unlikely. The continuation of the bloodline and the monarchy itself was at stake. The child that grew up thinking they were royal, they had no idea, but the whistleblower did. And they knew because they were the biological child of the real mother. Yes, the leaker was the sibling of the royal at the center of this crisis, unrecognized, hidden, and fueled by a burning need for the truth to be known. Not to destroy the royal family, but to correct a lie that had defined an entire nation's future. The visual and documentary evidence had laid the foundation, but now everything clicked into place. The secret Swiss meeting, they were with a discreet genealogist, paid under multiple aliases to trace and verify hidden family links. The garden confession video, it was the moment the royal had begun to realize the inconsistencies in their own history. The royal had discovered childhood records missing, baby photos altered, and internal staff who acted strangely guarded around them. One particular incident had haunted them. On their 16th birthday, they had found an old letter tucked inside a book, unaddressed, but written in a woman's hand, saying, "You are loved beyond measure, forgive them for the silence." That letter was now confirmed to have matched the handwriting of the woman believed to be their biological mother, who passed away in a quiet car crash 3 years later. A crash some now suspect wasn't entirely accidental. When the royal finally confronted a senior family member, they were met with denial, then fury, then silence. Not long after, their appearances at official events dwindled. Their name became less prominent in media briefings. Their image was cropped out of public frame. The monarchy was doing what it had always done best, protecting the crown, not the individual. But this time, the individual wasn't going to stay silent. The leaked archive videos, images, documents and DNA scans was compiled over 5 years by the whistleblower sibling. Every piece was verified, documented, encrypted, and stored across multiple jurisdictions. When released, the public reaction was seismic. Mainstream media couldn't ignore it. Historians scrambled to reassess royal timelines. Geneticists went live to explain the data. And within 48 hours, royal rate was trending across the globe. But the most emotionally devastating moment came when the royal at the center of the storm, now confirmed to be illegitimate in lineage, but not in loyalty, issued a statement. It wasn't a formal speech, no camera crew, just a handwritten letter, posted on a private blog. "I grew up loving a family I believed I belonged to, and in every way that matters, I still do. But the truth, once known, cannot be unknown. I am not angry, I am not ashamed, but I am no longer silent." That letter broke the internet. People across the world expressed sorrow, rage, admiration, and heartbreak. Some called it the greatest betrayal in modern royal history. Others said it was a chance for rebirth, a way to reshape the monarchy with honesty. But one thing was now certain: the fairy tale had always been edited, and now the uncut version was finally out. The leak didn't just shake the royal family, it fractured the public's trust in a centuries-old institution, once considered untouchable. In the days that followed the revelation, the palace went into full crisis mode. Official portraits were pulled from galleries, public appearances were postponed indefinitely, and in an unprecedented move, the Royal Communications Office issued a brief but telling statement. "We are aware of recently surfaced material. We ask for privacy as we address deeply personal matters within the family." But the silence spoke louder than any press release ever could. Across the UK and around the world, millions were glued to their screens. News anchors struggled to balance reverence with inquiry. Historians were summoned to emergency interviews. Parliament convened a private session to discuss constitutional implications. No one knew whether the line of succession was still valid, or what would happen next. Public opinion split overnight. On one side there was heartbreak. Many sympathized deeply with the royal at the center of the story, someone raised in the spotlight, under an illusion they never asked for. To them this wasn't scandal, It was a human tragedy. One viral tweet read, "Imagine finding out your entire life was a role in someone else's play." They didn't lie to the public, they lied to them. On the other side was outrage. Critics accused the monarchy of staging a multi-decade deception that cost taxpayers billions while maintaining the illusion of purity and tradition. Protesters began gathering outside royal estates, holding signs that read, "If truth threatens the throne, what does the throne stand for?" Internationally, leaders from Commonwealth nations called for reviews of symbolic ties to the crown. Australia, Jamaica, and Canada saw a renewed push toward full independence. Suddenly, the ripple effects of a hidden bloodline weren't just personal, they were political. As for the whistleblower, the sibling whose quiet resistance unearthed a global reckoning, they vanished from public view. Rumors swirled that they were under legal protection in an undisclosed location. Some claimed they were negotiating a tell-all book deal. Others believed they had done what they set out to do and disappeared forever. But not before leaving one final message, posted anonymously on a secure forum. "I didn't do this to ruin a family. I did it to set one person free. And that person, the royal who had been raised in a world built on lies." They've remained mostly silent. No interviews, no appearances. But on the anniversary of the leak, they posted a single image to a private social account. An open field, empty crown resting in the grass, with the caption, "The truth is not betrayal, silence was." No one knew what it meant exactly, but to the millions watching, it felt like closure. Or maybe just the beginning. Because in the ashes of the scandal, a question remains, one that echoes not just through the palace walls, but through every household, every citizen, every believer in institutions. If the truth can undo a crown, was the crown ever real to begin with?